There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome to another wee book haul. First off is a novella by the deaf Saskatoon writer Adam Pottle, The Bus. And this sounds absolutely fascinating. Published in 2016. I'm reading his 2023 horror novel right now, and I'm not sure enjoy is the right word, but I'm certainly engaged by it. This is set in April 1941. 6 mental patients on their way to be euthanized in Nazi Germany, and it's the story of each of them. So it's a very tough story. Adam Pottle writes about it in his memoir Voice, which is what caused me to buy the book and hopefully read it before I interview him in the next few weeks. The first character is Nadja, and I'll read the opening few sentences of hers. I roll my head to one side and peer across the ward. The sun's beginning to rise. I can see the outlines of the curtains. In the daytime, they're stiff and white, like used tissues. But right now, they're soft, the incoming light softly framing them. It's almost time to get up. I hold my hand up to my face. The bandage has loosened. The blood's dried to a crust. I tap it with my finger. A few tings of pain, like my hand is a bell. The nurses still haven't given me a shot. Well, that is quite vivid, visceral writing, which I have come to expect from Adam Pottle. I read something by Jane Bowles. It was in an anthology, and it made me realize what a great writer she is. And so I bought this, Two Serious Ladies. She's kind of like one of my favorite writers, Elizabeth Jane Howard. The only reason her husband is famous is because he was married to her. Paul Bowles, I read his most famous novel. It was pretty awful, but the short story I read really got me intrigued. With Jane, the talented one in that marriage. This was originally published in 1965. The protagonist is an eccentric, impulsive New York heiress and a spinster. And the other lady is a married woman who's afraid of drowning, lifts, and intruders in the night. Here's the first 2 paragraphs. Christina Ging's father was an American industrialist of German parentage, and her mother was a New York lady of a very distinguished family. Christina spent the first half of her life in a very beautiful house, not more than an hour from the city, which she had inherited from her mother. It was in this house that she had been brought up as a child with her sister Sophie. As a child, Christina had been very much disliked by other children. She had never suffered particularly because of this, having led, even at a very early age, an active inner life that curtailed her observation of whatever went on around her, to such a degree that she never picked up the mannerisms then in vogue, and at the age of 10 was called old-fashioned by other little girls. Even then she wore the look of certain fanatics who think of themselves as leaders without once having gained the respect of a single human being. And finally, this is a thrift store purchase. An anthology of Scottish short stories, A Sense of Place. Editing Sean here. I made a big mistake in describing this book. It is not short stories. It is essays and non-fiction stories. Winning entries from the Scottish Publishers Association A Sense of Place competition in 2005. No less interesting to me, but these are not fictional short stories. They are essays and non-fiction stories. A collection of new Scottish writing. The editors... The foreword is by Professor Tom Devine. I don't know if that means he's the editor. There's no other indication of an editor. I am really interested in Scottish literature. I've read a little bit, enough to whet my appetite. So when I saw this for like $1 or something, I picked it up. The first story is called Powfoot Shore, and I may not be pronouncing Powfoot correctly, but Powfoot Shore, and the author is Vivian Jones, and here is the opening paragraph. I am often asked, what's it like where you live? And I'm perplexed every time about how to answer. What sense in describing a place when it changes with every wind and tide? Each wind that blows up the Solway estuary sculpts the waves into different rhythms, from white-capped true sea rollers that play piggyback with each other racing to shore, to creased silk ripples that only ruffle the surface and tickle the shore. Each tide moves sand and silt. Each season's tides design a new beach, sometimes conspiring with the moon to make a morning surprise. A smooth expanse of sand where yesterday were only pebbles. A gelatinous line of washed-up jellyfish. And when the wind joins in, a tide line of foam meringues that turn from sea creatures to creatures of the air, flying along the beach. It's quite lovely. Sense of place indeed. What do you think of these? Thanks for watching.